On July 2, 2025, nature unleashed its fury across several regions of the Asian continent, beginning with Dambe County in China. What initially seemed like a typical rainy season quickly escalated into a series of connected catastrophes that devastated the mountainous interior of Sichuan, the densely populated cities of Shangshi Province, and ultimately the entire island of Taiwan as it was struck by the powerful Typhoon Danas. The disaster began with intense rainfall in the mountainous region of Shenzugu, in Dambe. Continuous downpours saturated the soil, triggering a massive geological collapse that would soon turn into a tragedy for local communities. Just days later, on July 4th, the city of Tyuan, capital of Shangshi Province, was slammed by monsoon rains that overwhelmed every element of urban infrastructure. And as if that weren't enough, on July 6th, Taiwan was directly impacted by Typhoon Danas, which approached from the west, a highly unusual and dangerous path, bringing hurricane-force winds and torrential rain. In Dambe, weather forecasts had already warned of possible soil instability. Meteorological stations issued hydrological alerts, urging residents in high-risk areas to remain on alert. However, what happened in the village of Shenzugu went far beyond expectations. At exactly 8:43 p.m. local time, sensors detected seismic activity and slope movement. Just minutes later, over 200,000 cubic meters of mud, rock, and water thundered down the mountainside. In its path, the landslide completely destroyed at least 15 homes and severed road access connecting the villages of Shensu 1 and 2 with the county center. Residents described a deafening roar, followed by darkness and clouds of choking dust. Lights flickered and then went out entirely. Those who could ran blindly to save their lives. Authorities immediately activated emergency protocols, evacuating 215 households, totaling 491 people, who were relocated to shelters or to the homes of relatives. However, 6 members of the Lawn family remain missing, had been herding cattle in higher elevations, and 2 were working out of town when the landslide struck. None of them were present at the designated evacuation points. Rescue teams have deployed drones, search dogs, and thermal imaging cameras, but the difficult terrain and ongoing bad weather have severely hampered efforts. As the search continued, 12 other communities in the county began reporting similar geological instability due to the relentless rain. By July 5th, a total of 645 households, affecting 1,719 people, had been evacuated across the region. Roads began collapsing, rivers overflowed, and new landslides threatened already devastated areas. Amid this chaos, the rural life of the Chiayi Tibetan community, deeply connected to herding and the surrounding mountains, was brought to a halt. Many families lost not only their homes, but also their ancestral way of life. Meanwhile, on July 4th, the city of Tyuan in Shangshi Province experienced over 120 millimeters of rain in less than 24 hours. This amount exceeded the city's monthly rainfall average, overwhelming its infrastructure. The rainfall, caused by a stalled low-pressure system, triggered blackouts, street flooding, and the suspension of train, flight, and basic services. The districts of Inza, Xian, and Jinyuan were hardest hit. In Inza, the administrative and commercial center, floodwaters reached knee height, stranding hundreds of vehicles. In Chiayi, water surged through stairwells and building courtyards. Residents described scenes of absolute panic. Basements flooded, transformers failed, and widespread power outages were reported. More than 1,500 people were evacuated that night. In hillside neighborhoods where landslide risk was greatest, over 300 residents were relocated. The city's drainage infrastructure, dating back to the 1980s, failed completely. New urban strategies like permeable pavement and green absorption areas were still under construction and couldn't mitigate the crisis. By then, the national situation was deteriorating further. Provinces like Gansu, Hunan, and Liaoning were also reporting deadly floods and landslides. The nationwide death toll had risen to 7. In this worsening scenario, Typhoon Danas, which had formed over the Pacific Ocean, gained strength and set its sights on Taiwan. On July 6 at 11:40 p.m., Danas made landfall in Tainan and Bude, with sustained winds of 137 km per hour and gusts surpassing 170 km per hour. It was the first typhoon to strike Bude since 1986. This was an especially rare occurrence, as the storm approached from the west, highly unusual for tropical cyclones in the region, which usually come from the east. With a central pressure of 958 bar, Danas maintained its intensity as it crossed the island. In Yunlin, Chiayi, and Penghu, wind speeds reached levels equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane. The consequences were immediate. In Chiayi, Tainan, a large metal sign was torn from its structure, sparking panic among passers-by. Trees and rooftops were ripped away, roads were blocked, and hundreds of homes lost power. In Tainan alone, 299 incidents were reported involving fallen trees, infrastructure damage, and electrical hazards. Kaohsiung district was one of the hardest hit areas in terms of power outages. Over 53,000 households lost electricity, and by the next day, 24,000 were still in the dark. Taipower mobilized an emergency response force of cranes, trucks, generators, and over 140 engineers to restore service. In addition, the Gankou River and the village of Danyuan experienced levee overflows. The resulting floodwaters inundated roads, suspension bridges, and farmlands. In Manzhou, a mountain road collapsed in a mudslide, prompting the evacuation of 122 residents to a nearby hot springs hotel. By the morning of July 7th, the typhoon was still sweeping across the island, affecting southern regions including Kaohsiung, Chiayi, Tainan, and Pingdong. More than 2,800 people had been moved into emergency shelters. Public transportation ground to a halt. Flights were canceled, trains suspended, and roads blocked by landslides. Although the northern part of the island, including Taipei, did not suffer direct damage, outer rain bands from the typhoon continued to pose threats of intense rainfall and new landslides. The passage of these disasters through China and Taiwan has left a deep and lasting impact. In Dambe, rescuers continue searching for the Lan family, while keeping close watch on further geological risks. The region now faces not only physical reconstruction but also emotional recovery, with psychological support provided to survivors. In Tyuan, engineers are working non-stop to repair collapsed infrastructure. Discussions on modernizing drainage systems and speeding up sponge city programs have taken on renewed urgency. In Taiwan, authorities remain on high alert. Typhoon Danas is now moving toward eastern China, but its passage over the island has already left behind a national tragedy. The president has called for unity and strict adherence to official warnings, while military units assist in restoring essential services. What ties all these events together is a disturbing pattern. Climate change is increasing both the frequency and intensity of extreme weather. Experts have already warned that monsoon rains like those of this year, or typhoons with unpredictable trajectories, could become the new normal.